You wake up, you answer messages, you go to work, you talk to people, you smile when you're supposed to smile, you do the things a functioning person is supposed to do. And from the outside, your life may look fine. Maybe nothing is falling apart. Maybe you have a place to live. Maybe you have people around you. Maybe you even have moments where you laugh. But then, when the room gets quiet, when the screen turns off, when nobody needs anything from you, something inside you feels strangely empty, not sad enough to explain, not broken enough for people to notice, not dramatic enough to call a crisis, just empty. And that can be one of the loneliest feelings in the world, because when your life looks fine, people expect you to feel fine. They may say, "What do you have to be unhappy about? You should be grateful. Other people have it worse." And maybe you tell yourself the same thing. Maybe you look at your own life and think, "I have no reason to feel this way." But emptiness does not always come from having nothing. Sometimes emptiness comes from being disconnected from what you have, from your feelings, from your needs, from the version of you that used to feel alive. So if your life looks normal, but something inside you feels absent, this video is not here to diagnose you. It is here to help you understand what may be happening beneath the surface. Because sometimes the question is not, "Why is my life so bad?" Sometimes the real question is, "Why can't I feel my life anymore?" 1. You may be living on autopilot. There is a kind of emptiness that does not look like suffering. It looks like routine. You wake up, you check your phone, you get dressed, you answer what needs to be answered, you go where you need to go, you say what people expect you to say, you finish the day, then another day begins. And nothing is obviously wrong, but nothing feels deeply yours either. You are moving through life, but not really inside it. You are present in your body, but not fully present in yourself. This is what autopilot can feel like. You are functioning, but you are not connected to the life you are functioning in. And the danger is that from the outside, autopilot can look responsible. It can look calm, stable, mature, productive, but inside, it may feel like watching your life from behind glass. You see yourself doing things. You hear yourself speaking. You watch yourself making choices, but a quiet part of you keeps asking, "Is this really my life?" Autopilot often begins as survival. At some point, maybe feeling everything became too much pressure, too much disappointment, too much uncertainty, too much needing to keep going. So your mind learned to simplify, do the task, answer the message, show up, keep moving, do not feel too much, do not ask too many questions, just get through the day. And for a while, that may help you survive. But if you stay there too long, survival starts to feel like emptiness, because a life spent only getting through the day slowly stops feeling like a life you are actually living. 2. You may have lost touch with what you actually want. Sometimes emptiness comes from living a life that looks good on the outside, but does not feel connected to who you are on the inside. You may have done what you were supposed to do, chosen the safe path, followed the rules, avoided disappointing people, became useful, became reasonable, became the person everyone could accept. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking yourself what you wanted, not what would impress people, not what would make you look successful, not what would make your family comfortable, not what would make you seem normal, but what you actually wanted. What moves you? What makes you feel alive? What do you miss? What did you bury because it felt unrealistic? Many people do not feel empty because they have no life. They feel empty because their life was built around expectations instead of truth. And this is painful to admit, because from the outside, the life may look fine, maybe even good, but inside, it feels like wearing clothes that fit your body, but not your soul. You can live for years doing the right things and still feel hollow, because the right things for survival are not always the right things for the self. Sometimes you do not need a better routine. Sometimes you need to remember who you were before you learned to perform, before you learned to be convenient, before you learned that being accepted was safer than being honest. And maybe the emptiness is not a sign that you are ungrateful. Maybe it is a sign that some real part of you has been ignored for too long. 3. You may be emotionally numb. People often think pain always feels intense. Crying, panic, anger, collapse. But sometimes pain does not become louder. Sometimes it becomes quieter. So quiet that you barely recognize it as pain. You do not feel devastated. You just feel distant. You do not feel hopeless. You just feel blank. You do not feel like screaming. You just feel like nothing reaches you anymore. A message comes in. You should feel happy, but you feel nothing. Someone compliments you. You should feel proud, but it passes through you. A good thing happens. You know it is good, but your heart does not respond. And then you start questioning yourself. Why can't I enjoy this? Why do I feel so cold? Why does nothing touch me anymore? But numbness is not always a lack of emotion. Sometimes numbness is emotion that had to be shut away. Maybe you had to stay calm when you were hurt. Maybe you had to act normal when you were falling apart. Maybe you had to be strong because nobody knew what to do with your pain. Maybe you learned that needing comfort made you a burden, so your mind adapted. It lowered the volume, it created distance, it helped you function. But the same wall that protects you from pain can also block joy. That is the tragedy of numbness. It does not only keep out what hurts, it also keeps out what could heal you. So if you feel empty, it may not mean you have no feelings. It may mean your feelings are behind a door your mind closed a long time ago, not because you are broken, but because you were trying to survive. 4. You may be surrounded by people, but not truly known. Loneliness is not always the absence of people. Sometimes loneliness is being around people who only know the version of you that performs, the version that says, "I'm fine," the version that laughs at the right moments, the version that listens to everyone else, the version that does not make things uncomfortable, the version that keeps the deeper truth hidden. You may have friends, co-workers, family, people you talk to, people who would say they know you, but still, something inside you feels unseen, because being around people is not the same as being emotionally known. You can be in a room full of voices and still feel completely alone if none of those voices are allowed to reach the real you. Sometimes this happens slowly. You learn to edit yourself. You stop saying what hurts. You stop explaining what you need. You stop showing the messy parts. You become easier to be around, but harder to truly reach. And over time, people may love the version of you that survives socially, while the real you stays hidden underneath. This kind of emptiness can feel confusing because you are not isolated. You may even be liked, but being liked is not the same as being seen. Being included is not the same as being understood, and being needed is not the same as being loved. Sometimes the emptiness is not saying, "I need more people." Sometimes it is saying, "I need somewhere I can finally be real." 5. You may have been living for achievement instead of connection. Many people are taught to build a life by collecting proof. Proof that they are successful, proof that they are responsible, proof that they are improving, proof that they are not falling behind. So they chase goals, finish tasks, earn money, build routines, improve themselves, and none of these things are wrong. But if achievement becomes the only way you feel valuable, then even success can start to feel empty. Because achievement can give you validation, but it cannot always give you connection. It can make people admire you, but it cannot make you feel safe. It can make you look strong, but it cannot replace being held. It can prove that you are capable, but it cannot prove that you are loved. And this is why some people reach the thing they thought would finally make them feel okay, and still feel nothing. They get the job, they reach the milestone, they improve their life. They become more disciplined, but the emptiness remains, because the wound was never only about achievement. It was about worth, it was about love, it was about belonging, it was about wanting to feel that you matter even when you are not useful. And if you were only praised when you performed, only noticed when you achieved, only valued when you were helpful, then doing more may never feel like enough, because the part of you that feels empty is not asking for another accomplishment. It is asking, would I still be worthy if I stopped proving myself? 6. You may be tired of pretending that fine is enough. There is a quiet pressure in modern life to be okay if nothing is visibly wrong. If you have work, you should be okay. If you have food, you should be okay. If you have a roof over your head, you should be okay. If people can see you smiling, you should be okay. But human beings are not built to live on survival alone. We need meaning, we need warmth, we need depth, we need places where the soul can breathe. And sometimes a life can be functional, but emotionally undernourished. You may have stability, but no intimacy, structure, but no wonder, conversations, but no truth, achievements, but no peace, a routine, but no aliveness. And this is why fine can become such a painful word, because fine means nothing is burning, but it does not mean anything is blooming. Fine means you are surviving, but it does not mean you are connected. Fine means you can keep going, but it does not mean you feel alive. So if you feel empty even when life looks fine, maybe the emptiness is not asking you to destroy your life. Maybe it is asking you to listen more honestly, to stop confusing functionality with fulfillment, to stop calling yourself ungrateful for wanting more than survival, to stop pretending that a life can be emotionally empty and still be enough forever. Maybe something inside you is not broken. Maybe something inside you is hungry, hungry for truth, hungry for connection, hungry for a life that does not only look acceptable from the outside, but feels real from the inside. So, why do you feel empty when life looks fine? Maybe because you have been living on autopilot. Maybe because you lost touch with what you want. Maybe because your emotions went numb after too much pain. Maybe because people know your mask better than they know your heart. Maybe because achievement gave you proof, but not peace. Maybe because you are tired of pretending that normal is enough. But whatever the reason is, your emptiness is not something to hate. It is something to listen to. Because emptiness is not always the enemy. Sometimes emptiness is the space where the truth starts knocking. It asks, are you really here? Is this life really yours? What have you stopped feeling? What part of you is waiting to be found? And maybe the answer does not come all at once. Maybe you do not wake up tomorrow suddenly full of purpose. Maybe you do not instantly feel alive again. But maybe you begin with one small honest thing. You admit, I am not as fine as I look. And then, I want to feel my life again. Not perfectly, not dramatically, not all at once, just one real moment at a time. Because you were not made only to function. You were not made only to be useful. You were not made only to look okay. You were made to feel connected to the life you are living. And if you cannot feel that right now, it does not mean you never will. It means something inside you is asking to be heard. Sometimes the pain beneath emptiness is not ingratitude, it is disconnection, and maybe healing begins not by forcing yourself to feel happy, but by gently asking, where did I leave myself? And then, slowly, coming back.